Hi, my name is Kate Duvall. I am 16 years old, and I've been homeschooled for 5.5 years. I am here to share my story about homeschooling and how that's affected my learning pathway, because I've noticed that there are a lot of misconceptions about it, and especially with the coronavirus going around at the moment, a lot of parents are pulling their kids out of school in order to homeschool them, which I think is actually really great. Welcome to, this community. They may have some concerns, and hopefully I'll be able to ease them with my experience in homeschooling and, just how it's affected me in general. I originally started off in mainstream school. I went to pre-primary and stayed in there until about halfway through year 3, where my parents pulled me out simply because I wasn't learning anything that they were teaching. I already knew it all, and that sounds kind of braggish, but it's not. It was just simply, I'm not learning here, so they were going to teach me at home, and that was all there was to it. That continued on until about year 7, where I decided to say, hey, I can go into high school now. I'm going to go there. So they put me in high school. And one of the very large misconceptions that people have about homeschooling is that they don't know how to socialize properly. They don't learn how to do it simply because of the lack of experience near people. They don't get standard lunch times. They don't have access to a classroom full of people immediately. They don't have people their age to hang out with. And going back into it, I was perfectly fine. I went in at year 7 and very quickly got grade skipped up to year 9 because I still wasn't learning anything. Wonderful. But yeah, even being around the older kids, I was still perfectly fine. I made friends. I wasn't antisocial. Life was perfectly fine. I was okay with socializing. That's really all there was to it. There wasn't any specific downside in that area that homeschooling had given me. I still grew up. I'm still growing up to be a functional human being. I hope. People might have questions about that, but we don't talk about those things. But yeah. I stayed most of the way through year 10, and then I went back into homeschooling. Homeschooling itself isn't entirely a selfish concept, right? It is more I learned better here, right? I learned better at home. I was able to work at a faster pace. I was able to be more productive in my schoolwork. So they pulled me back out, sat me back in here, and I've been homeschooled for the past 2 years. Typical school day for me looks like 3 to 4 hours of just, very quick, very solid learning. It is what I want to learn as well. And then whenever the homeschool moderator comes in, which is basically the person that just checks to make sure that you're doing something correctly, that you're covering all the bases that you need in homeschool, like English, math, those sort of things. I just say, cool, this is what I did. Certain parts of these things, they can fit into these subjects. And then, ta-da, I've done it. Which is one of the wonderful parts of it. Being homeschooled, you're able to learn however best it sinks in. Like, in mainstream schooling, one of the things that they do, just textbook learning all the way through. A lot of the stuff about homeschooling is that you are able to learn through those textbooks if you want to. If you're able to work better online, you can. There's freedom in a lot of things. There's also freedom in socializing, surprisingly. When you're younger, not so much, because you don't have that independence yet. But for people my age that are just going into homeschooling, that, sort of have those freedoms of being online, then they're able to, still talk to their friends. I know that there are a few programs out there that allow people to talk to other people. You can add yourself as friends on there. Discord's one of them. Great program. Coburn itself is actually a great place for homeschooling because you have the Coburn Youth Center, right? And it's in the staff there are actually really lovely. I highly suggest going there. At the very least, just say hi. They're very friendly. And they have lots of cool programs that they run during the term. It's actually wonderful. They do actually have stuff there to do just to hang out, which is really great, considering that I'm homeschooled. I have not really many places to go because they're also starting to not allow school-age students at stores and stuff. They've been really lovely. They've always been a great pleasure to hang out with. But it's also within walking distance to the library, which is like right next door, and the Coburn Arc. And I think that that's just really great because it allows me to, go over there. I can meet up with people, other homeschoolers at the youth center. They haven't had a problem with that. I've organized things there before, and they've just been like, yeah, go ahead, go for it. We love people. So I was just like, okay, cool. And then I can study at the library, and if I ever need to do something at the recreation center, then it's there. Like, it's not no longer accessible just because I'm a homeschooler. So I think that it's actually really great, the way that they have things set up. I've really enjoyed homeschooling so far. I've enjoyed all that it's had to offer. It can be a bit stressful at times, because obviously there's deadlines just like everything else. That part doesn't change. But it's a matter of, once you're in it, once you have sort of experience, once you get used to the flow of things, it's actually quite fun. And there's a lot more freedom in it that you don't get in public school, or not even public school, just mainstream school in general. But yeah, thank you for listening to my story, watching me stare at this screen very intimidatingly and fidget. I hope that this helps shed some light on some of the things that people may be worried about if they're pulling kids, or if you're one of those kids, one of the students that's like now going into homeschooling, then welcome to the club. That's all I have to say to you. Just have a good day and enjoy the rest of your lives.